let's do our list.
Okay.
We flipped a 3-sided coin, and Dean, you have the first pass.
Well, I'm going to pull a Jerry Dennis here.
Oh my God! It's become a verb.
and combine two movies, but I think they're very, obviously linked together in a lot of ways. But number 10 is a combo for me. It's Christine and Kate plays Christine. Both of them about Christine Chubbuck. Talk about grief.
Okay.
My God. Well, let me start with Kate Plays Christine, which is a film by Robert Greene, who kind of made a splash a couple of years ago with a movie called Actress with Brandy Burr in the lead. That kind of covers some of the same ground that Kate Plays Christine does. Kate Plays Christine has Caitlin Schell. Or Shile, I think, in the lead. It's it's a movie that after I watched it, I was like, or while I was watching it, I was like, what is this movie? Is it a documentary? Is this written? Is it? I couldn't tell what it was, and it really stuck with me. The lead actress is preparing to play Christine Chubbuck, the news reporter, the Florida news reporter who shot herself on camera in 1974 live on television. And there's the film. It shows her preparing for this role. She doesn't look like she's prepared. When you see the scenes in the movie that are clips from the movie she's working on, the movie doesn't look very good. She's not hitting the right notes. And then we're following her in the sort of the documentary part of the movie. We're following her as she's trying to gather information about Christine, and is having a very difficult time. She doesn't even know how the woman walked or talked or anything. She struggles to find footage of her. There's no footage around, and the death itself is, suppressed. The tape of it is apparently in a vault somewhere in the station owner's, safe or something. And she just doesn't know how to approach the role. And so what I really liked about Kate Plays Christine was not its take on Christine Chubbuck, although I thought that was interesting. It was interesting to see how it was more of a movie about an actress trying to find her way into a role, and the struggle that it takes to create a character, particularly one that's based on somebody in real life. And I think the movie just grabbed me because I was just trying to figure it out, and I'm still perplexed by it and fascinated by it. As far as Christine goes, the other movie, which is about the same subject but takes a more straightforward approach to it, it's by Antonio Campos, a filmmaker that I don't know anything about really, but based on this film, I think that he should be considered somebody worth watching. Rebecca Hall plays Christine Chubbuck in this, and it's a much more straightforward piece, a hugely affecting mood piece, one of the best movies I've ever seen about depression, it really it follows Christine Chubbuck probably a few months before she commits suicide on camera. and it follows her trying to get the local station that she works for, which is led by Tracy Letts, the the great writer and Pulitzer Prize-winning writer who's turned into probably the greatest character actor. I mean, certainly
he's really good at it.
He is. He's fantastic in it. He plays the head of the studio, the head of the news division at the local station, who really stands in her way. He wants the news to be, if it bleeds, it leads. And this is a new concept. He's looking for ratings. Well, it was new in '74, and Christine really wants to do more substantive reporting. Reporting on things that really matter in people's lives and not just violence and fires and things. And he stands in her way. He's really somebody who's just, the personification of an asshole, basically. And she's got very sympathetic people around her at the studio. But she's also dealing with a very empty personal life. She's living at home with her mother, who's also great, played by J. Smith Cameron, and she's loveless. She's a virgin at 30. These were all true facts, and she's incredibly depressed. There's this shattering scene where she's out and she's sort of staring longingly at a couple at a nearby table at a restaurant that she's gone to, and she decides to approach them in a very uncomfortable scene. They're out on a date. She approaches them and says, "Oh, you look like you're very much in love," and she kind of passes it off as kind of a way to get a story. She wants to do a story on them, but it's an incredibly uncomfortable scene, and you can just feel the longing in her soul for somebody to connect with. And I just found the movie incredibly fascinating right to the very, very end, which I think it has a fantastic final shot, by the way. If you really think about this final shot and what happens in it, I think it will resonate with people, with more observant people. But I just thought that both of these movies sort of ping off each other in very fascinating ways, and that's why I had to put this into the top 10. It probably would, if I'd had seen other movies, maybe it might fall out, but I still love these two movies.
Well, I think that I like Christine, and Rebecca Hall, man. First of all, she was the perfect actress to cast in the role. Not just for the look, but obviously for what she brought to it emotionally. And that it's such a brave, fierce performance because Christine was a very off-putting person. I mean, obviously she suffered from depression. But as the movie shows, there were people that reached out to her and did try to make a connection, but she could not let them in. And so there are moments throughout the movie where you feel like, you can get there. It's the opportunity is right there. Accept that invitation to lunch or to get together to talk to a friend or, so you feel her isolation build throughout the movie. And I think it is a very visceral movie. It's just it's a thing. It made me think about when the lead character in your movie doesn't really let anything penetrate, and I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about, but even though it could be, you could equate it to sex, but
right.
She doesn't let anyone in. I mean, no wonder she's a virgin. Nothing can penetrate that facade that she has. So when you make a movie where your lead character is that, it is a challenge to make a viewer emotionally invested.
Right.
You know, I come from a place where I am really interested in Christine Chubbuck just generally, and I'm interested in how her mental illness manifested itself and kind of dictated the end of her life. So I had that kind of investment in it. But I think, like the general public, I could see the general public having a problem with it because there's no one to like root for in a kind of standard movie way.
Well, I think
to empathize.
I think that okay. Well, I think that her depression was so severe, and it probably had been since her teen years, that she was probably at that point unable to really speak with people, because in order to speak with people honestly, she probably I feel this in my own depression sometimes, that I can't speak to people really honestly unless I say, hey, listen, I'm dealing with a major illness here. And I think that she wanted to I think that she wanted to keep that under wraps, and there was, I think that she was afraid to reach out to anybody because she didn't want to reveal the sort of terrible life that she'd been living.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
When you say that, you let me just give some advice, some pointers. I'm sure, Dean, you know this. Never say to anyone, and it's a horrible thing to say, but I have to say it, even in light of Carrie Fisher's death and everything, who was an outspoken, champion for people like us. I was at a party one time, and I thought I was amongst friends, and they are good people, but I had said, hey, I suffer from a mild depression. This was about in 2004, and I really just sort of shut the room up. It's not something that unfortunately not something that you can talk about. So I didn't see this. You really can't. It's really sad, isn't it, Dean? It is really sad that you can't. But I remember I was really just down, just really going through one of my moods, and I learned a very valuable lesson. This is just not something you can talk about with most people, sadly. Even people.
Well,
that
especially
friends.
in something like 74.
Oh yeah.
They're But I think it's a great picture of mental illness and what she experienced. But and this isn't a complaint about the movie, it's just an interesting note about how we generally respond to movies. It is a challenge to have your lead character be someone so closed off, and to get an audience emotionally invested in that. I appreciated the movie for what it did. But I
think it I don't think that it really tries to. I don't think that. It's really all up to Rebecca Hall, who, by the way, it's one of the performances of the year. I mean, she
it really is
has a certain walk, a certain kind of clomping kind of gait to her walk that just says everything, and there's no sexuality to it at all. There's sort of a kind of confusion when she kind of walks into the room, like everybody seems to be kind of walking on eggshells in some ways around her. Michael C. Hall plays the lead anchor at the station, and he tries to reach out to her, and I thought it was a ridiculously powerful performance, and
it really is.
And Tracy Letts
was just
fantastic in it.
There's also this. And then we'll move on to Jerry's number 10 because we got to get through these. But there's also this with that. That she chose to be a news reporter, to be extremely visible, and yet, which is sounds like they're at odds with each other.
Yeah.
But I've experienced this in my own life, and you hear a lot of actors say this too, that I'm very kind of antisocial. Like if I walk into a room with people I don't know, I'll automatically assume that everyone in that room hates me, and I feel incredibly uncomfortable. That's how I've been my whole life, and yet I can go on stage in front of thousands of people. There is like this undercurrent of I want to be seen.
Yeah.
But not as necessarily exactly who I am. But with Christine, I mean, that's at play in Christine as well. But also, it leaves it kind of open that she might not have actually even been very good as a news reporter. You know, she wasn't exactly polished in her presentation, or she had her head buried in her notes for most of the time.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, even when you in Kate Plays Christine, you do get to see some real footage of Christine Chubbuck, and you can see that in her ambitions kind of outshot her abilities, and that's probably something that she knew as well. So that probably contributed to her depression.
Jerry, you're number 10.
I really regret not seeing it at AFI, even if it was only 2 show times. Okay, I talked about this movie, so I won't go into that much detail about it. And this would be my number 10 is Chan-wook Park's The Handmaiden, which I just thought I just first of all, he had a movie out. I don't even think a lot of people knew that. People who were fans of Old Boy or Lady Vengeance, I don't even know if people knew that he had a movie come out this year. That was one of the reasons I wanted to put it on a list, just to make people aware of it. But it's this is the one that takes place in occupied Korea, when the Japanese are occupy Korea, and there's just this scheme going on to try to defund this how shall I say it, this Japanese heiress. And it just has all the, if you paid attention to Mr. Park's career, it has all his things in it. I mean, I couldn't imagine this the first time I was watching it. I was just like, wow, I see this guy definitely has his own visual style. He has his own motifs that he uses, his own little visual tricks, and they're like objects and everything. He seems to be obsessed with octopuses. They seem to be just show up in the oddest places in his movies. But he's also really a master of cinematic revenge. Obviously this is a man who did the Vengeance trilogy with Old Boy and the 2 other films in that trilogy, but here, this is also a tale of revenge that is very carefully calculated through the years, and it requires some patience, but I had to pick this movie for, if anything, it's probably one of the most beautiful movies I've seen this year. Just very lush, I've always been a very big proponent of Asian cinema, and I was very upset over the years to notice that I hadn't seen much. I've been a very big, I love Japanese films and Korean films and Chinese films, but I just hadn't seen that much until this one. And something happened over the summer that I really just regained interest in that whole region cinema. And it was really nice that I could at least put a film that I had seen, because it couldn't be the other movie, The Wailing, the Korean horror movie. I watched that a couple of weeks ago, and that just sort of left me cold. I don't know if you've guys heard of this movie, and it takes place in a Korean village, and there's a virus going around, and it just goes on and on and on and on, and you're just like, when's it going to end? I got too many to do. When's it going to end? But no, this one was just really, not going back to The Handmaiden, a really great movie. Really stylish. I mean, it's not to say. I mean, it is one of the most beautiful movies, and that is taking into consideration Rules Don't Apply, which was lensed by Khalid Deschanel, which is also very beautiful to look at too. But no, this I just and I talked about this when we had seen it, so I just definitely that's my number 10.
I regret not seeing more foreign films last year. I do. But
I mean, usually my list is filled with a few more foreign films than it is this year, but I found them incredibly hard to find.
Yeah.
So,
God, yeah. I mean,
they're incredibly hard to find now. You really, really have to go out and they're just finding them in theaters for most people would be almost impossible unless you're in a major market. So. Handmaiden is definitely one that I'm sorry I've missed. I understand that it's beautifully made, so it's definitely on my list to see.
Yeah.
Even
more
so.
Jerry, not not all of us have an AFI theater, Jerry.
That was the only way I could go see it, and it wasn't even there that long. Let me put it to you like this: it wasn't even there. If we'd gone the next day, no luck.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 10. Now my number 9 and 10, I'm including in this list this week with reservations. Now, when I see these other movies, I'll update my list and publish it and whatever. But my number 10 right now, I have, just as a film, I have reservations about it because I think what the movie isn't represents such a wasted opportunity. And I won't go on long about it, but number 10 is De Palma. The reason why it's on my list is because what it is too juicy and entertaining not to include, especially because it pertains to an artist that I've been obsessed with for decades. So I was relieved, I was happy and thrilled and very entertained by the movie, and the fact that the movie exists delighted me. I just wish it would have gone deeper, because you're dealing with an artist whose main criticism, outside of being like a Hitchcock clone and woman in peril and a misogynist and all that kind of stuff, what they're really saying is there's no there. It's all surface imitation, flash, and all that kind of stuff. So what I wanted the movie to do was show how it wasn't all just technique. It wasn't just all camera trickery and an homage to Hitchcock, that there was real thinking there, real biting satire, commentary about the political realm, about our society, which I find in quite probably a good like half of De Palma's output. I see that kind of worthiness in his films. That wasn't touched upon in this movie. This movie was, this is how I came to this place. This is how I chose this movie. These are the people I worked with. Now let me tell you a funny anecdote or two about them, which is fine because De Palma serves as a really entertaining raconteur, but it didn't plumb the depths, and it could have corrected a lot of thinking about appreciation of De Palma's work. It could have matured the way that a lot of people view his work, and it missed that opportunity, I think.
Okay. I have a confession to make. This is my number 2.
Okay.
This is my number 2, and I agree with everything you just said, but I was very grateful to Adam Long for sharing the link to let me watch his screener while I was at work, of all places. As someone said, we've never seen you happier at work. Never seen someone with a smile on their face for 2 hours straight, but that's just the way it is. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Yeah, it could have plumbed the depths. But when this movie came out, I was thinking about this the other day. For a brief moment in the film criticism, the online film world, all anybody was talking about was Brian De Palma. For a week.
Yeah.
Let's not get carried away. For a week. The genius of Brian De Palma. You read these articles and everything, and it was like, oh my God! It's like, what? I must have hit my hand, gotten off on the wrong side of the bed or something. I mean, all these people going on and on about the genius of De Palma, and I'm just thinking to myself, where the hell have you guys been for the last couple of decades? Now you're going to say he's a genius? I mean, come on. I mean, no, I think it's a good movie, and I agree. It's just him really talking. It's just basically the dinners that they have. I think what the most interesting thing was, guys, you guys get to have dinner with De Palma every week? I'm jealous. I mean, I don't have that dinner.
No, I mean, you know, it's delicious for people like you and me, Jerry, who are obviously, we're both De Palma obsessives.
Yeah, obviously.
Another curiosity is I wanted to know how a filmmaker talked to another filmmaker about their work. And what I found is they obviously interviewed him the same way anyone would. I think maybe if he was being prodded by a film academic, you probably could have had a more studious, thoughtful examination of his work instead of the kind of the entertaining. Yeah.
Right.
That's the crux of the problem that you're saying. I love De Palma. It's in my top 20, and I'm not a huge fan either. I just felt like I like the 70s and the 80s, a lot of the 80s movies.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know, I felt like it was just it was like the best. I mean, yeah, you're right. It doesn't plumb the depths, the subtext of his movies, but it was like you were talking to him and you got the chance to ask him just about every question that you wanted to ask, and he answers them.
Yeah, I mean,
and I liked that. I liked. I found that hugely enjoyable, and he was very honest about his failures, and it really just follows his career, up until today, really.
Yeah.
From the very beginning to today, and so I don't know. I found it also very ridiculously entertaining, and
I mean, it's exciting.
I did too.
I mean,
I'm reviewing what it wasn't instead of what it was, and what it was is very entertaining and satisfying for me in a kind of surface pleasurable kind of way.
Yeah. Look, it made me go revisit The Fury and Snake Eyes that week, because I know we talked about those on the show at the time. But I just, when I watch it, I have a very melancholy reaction because I still think he has a couple of great movies in him, and maybe that's wishful thinking. I don't know how those movies are going to get made. I don't know. I think what I found very depressing was here you have this, I'm sorry, a genius, for lack of a better word, and he's not doing much lately. And the movies, and let's be honest, the last couple movies are very unremarkable, to say the least. I mean, the last movie I saw that I really, really liked was Femme Fatale, and I know that's not even popular with a lot of people, but I like that. That, to me, at least has a lot of the classic De Palma things in it. And
I think that's his last great movie. I did like Passion, though. I thought Passion was, sort of
interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even Passion was as bad De Palma or lukewarm De Palma is better than a lot of other things. But it's just we know what he's so capable of, though. I think that's what it is, and that's what makes it so infuriating. He is the Rodney Dangerfield of directors. He gets no respect whatsoever. I mean, none. I've said that repeatedly on the show, but he really doesn't get any respect.
Okay, Dean, you're number 9.
My number 9 movie is probably one of the sweetest movies that I saw this year, and it becomes even more melancholy knowing that an era is ending. It's Southside with You.
Oh yeah,
The wonderful movie by Richard Tan that chronicles the first date between Barack Obama and Michelle Robinson. Michelle Robinson's played by Tika Sumpter, and Barack is played by Parker Sawyers. They're both tremendously effective in their roles. And it's kind of, I kind of liken it to, I just take out the Barack and Michelle angle and just look at it also as just sort of a first date movie, like it's like, in a way, you can liken it to something like Before Sunset or Before Sunrise or whatever. It's very simple. It just shows them meeting. I guess Barack and Michelle have worked together in their offices before, in their law offices. He has a crush on her. She's very resistant. The date starts off, they're even debating whether it's really a date or not. And eventually they go see, they walk around the park, they have ice cream, she accompanies him to a community meeting where she gets to see his, tremendous, speaking abilities, and his abilities to rouse people to, action and support. And then they go see Do the Right Thing. They run into some coworkers. She's trying to keep the date on the down low because she doesn't want anybody in the office to know that there might be something there. And, you know, and then the movie's over. I remember seeing it at the theater, and people were surprised when it was over. It was like, what? That's the end? You know, and I was like, well, what did you guys expect? I mean, this is the first date. But it was just such a sweet movie, just a sweet, you know, almost innocent kind of film that didn't really have, I guess it had a political overtone to it simply because of who they are.
Yeah.
But I tried to sort of look at it as just as a movie about two people, and you know, honestly, I guess it's you can't really get away from saying that they're not just two people; they're two very, very special people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel myself getting kind of emotional, you know, because of this week.
Yeah, of course.
The last week, you know. And, God, we're going to miss them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful film. It's a really, truly beautiful film. And it's so sad. I wish it had resonated more with people, and I don't know whether that was a bellwether or not. Because I don't know if people would have gone to see it. You know, more people would have gone to see it. But it's a beautiful little movie. Just really.
It is.
And then can I just say something? You know, while watching it, you know, you almost want to. You know, you're at times tempted to just like whisper, "Thank you."
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for doing what you did. I know there'll be people who listen to this and criticize us for that, but no, really, I agree with what you had written earlier on Facebook. I agree like 2,000% with what you wrote about him. But there's something very nice about watching this, and it's a very sweet little movie. And yeah, if you can divorce who they are and just say it's a first date movie. If you can, I don't know if you can do that, but it's an interesting experiment. But it's just really quite something to behold.
Well, I mean, whatever your politics are, you know, that is a special love story.
Yeah.
And together they accomplished what no one would have thought they would have been capable of accomplishing. You know, from those beginnings, and that's what the movie covers. By the way, I mean, I look back through history, and I think that there have been a lot of special husband and wife, president, first lady relationships from both parties. I mean, it probably wouldn't be a meet cute movie, but I have no doubt that Nixon and his wife had a powerfully strong love. That Reagan and his wife definitely had a powerful, strong love. So, you know, I look at it through that prism, whatever your political bent is. And these are two people, like the best love stories, that empowered one another to reach the heights that they did.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what's probably most special about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Jerry, number 9 for you.
All right, number 9, The Edge of 17.
Wow.
That's my number. Yeah, no, I like this movie. I like this movie a lot. You know, we talked a couple of years ago about the to-do list and many years about Juno, and this is definitely, I actually think in many ways better. I have to give it to Hallie Steinfeld playing this really, you know, kind of uber slacker who thinks she knows everything about the world and everything, and really sort of gets her butt handed to her in the movie. But the crux of the movie is it's a great realistic movie about high school. She plays a character named Nadine, and guess what? Her best friend, another sort of outsider, Krista, starts dating her popular older brother. And hijinks ensue, a lot of tension. But what I really like about the movie is every couple of years, a movie like this comes along, and this one really wasn't recognized by anyone. This didn't do well. I don't think this even did well.
No.
I got lost in the shuffle. It lasted longer than Bleed for this, but, so did I. But, for that matter. But, no, I just say that because I wanted to go see Bleed for this, but like a week after it came out, no longer playing. Gone.
Yep.
Out. 8-0. But, no. Hallie Steinfeld, I guess she was really, her big break was the remake of True Grit a couple of years ago. She's just superb. I mean, she just rocks this. Very solid. And it's got a great supporting cast. Kara Cedric, Woody Harrelson as a teacher, who, this is what I like about the movie. You think you know everything about everybody in this movie, and it completely upends that. I mean, you don't know anything. You're just as clueless as the main character, really. It really breaks a lot of preconceived notions of the genre, and it has some fun with it. But it was a good. I like these movies about high school. As I get further removed about high school, it shows you, wow, I really didn't know what was going on. But that filmmakers, no, I really didn't.
Well, high school's changed quite a bit. So,
no, it changes quite a bit, but it's changed a lot, but it hasn't in one sense. So
yeah.
There are something. But I just like these films where you visit it and you have these like really cool protagonists who are very, they think they know everything that's going on, but you know what? They really don't. They don't have the world figured out as we learn, like, towards the end. They're just as clueless as we were in high school, and it's a really nice reminder. But I don't know. It's a new film at Kelly Freeman Craig, and I can't wait to see what she does next, because this was really well done, and definitely is worthy of its accolades that it did get in reviews and everything when it came out. Certainly and definitely deserves to be on my list.
Okay. I need to see it.
Yeah, me too.
And James L. Brooks, full-throated support, and produced it, correct? He produced it.
I think he did.
He did.
Okay.
No. Okay, my number 9. I try to have like a little bit of everything in my top 10 lists. So this portion of my top 10 list is the genre movie. The kind of movie that you've seen variations of many times before, but these two movies I'm doubling up for the first time ever.
Jesus Christ, I didn't know I had this impact on people.
These two movies are great examples of genre films that are firing on all cylinders. And that's Hell or High Water and The Infiltrator.
Oh yeah!
Now,
I forgot all about The Infiltrator.
I was shocked that I liked The Infiltrator as much as I did, but it is the kind of movie where the FBI guy goes undercover to try to thwart Pablo Escobar's operation. He befriends people in the higher up echelons of the organization. He has to separate real life from his, work life, and it's dangerous. He could be beheaded and gutted and all that kind of stuff. The high stakes. We see this kind of movie a lot, but this is a movie that everything in it works for me. The relationships feel very. For instance, the relationship that he has with one of Escobar's higher ups, played by Benjamin Bratt, he gets into a really close relationship with he and his wife, and you feel that you almost to the point where it's so nice to see them being friends with each other. You don't want to see him down at the end of it, and a lot of the credit for how well The Infiltrator works is obviously Cranston, who is such a solid presence in everything he does. I mean, he's such a centering kind of, all right, I know where I am. I'm in good hands. Every time you see Cranston, he'll do his job. And it's exciting. It's really well done. Hell or High Water is the same thing for me. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, so we don't have to belabor the point. But very well written, very trim, and great colorful characters without being lampoony. Great knowing dialogue. It's just a very, very solid grade A handling of a B movie. I think, for me.
Yeah.
Now you can talk about the subtext of the financial crisis and all that kind of stuff. But when there's another movie on my list that actually deals with that head on, and when you see this other movie on my list, you think, no, Hell or High Water it shouldn't be looked upon as like a beacon of a financial crisis, holding that baton when you have a movie like this over here. So I'll talk about that one later. But these are two really good genre movies at my number 9.
Yeah. I mean, I have Hell or High
Which
Water.
I could discard when I see Silence.
Oh my God! You might keep Hell or High Water on there. I don't know. But I have Hell or High Water as number 6. And no, it's a really great genre movie, and it's what really great genre movies do. They do try to be about something more. So I'll just leave it as that. But I have it as my number 6. So, and I talked about it when it came out. So there's no reason we might make this quicker than we thought.
You know what? And I appreciate that it didn't. This is what I appreciate about the financial stuff. That it didn't attempt to be about that. That was the undercurrent.
Yeah.
Of the movie, and I like that about it.
Yeah.
You know? I think
I don't see any flaws in the movie.
No.
What it is.
I liked Hell or High Water quite a bit. I mean, it's not in my top 20, but it is a film of note for me. And I think the thing that really makes it work is the cast. I think the cast is incredibly good, right down to players that have only one scene in the movie. I think the movie is very generous to give these smaller players, a moment to shine. As far as I feel like it's the movie was a little overpraised when it came out, and it made me. I think it is a very, very entertaining movie. I just don't think that it's one of the great movies of the year for me. But still a movie that everybody should see.
Yeah, no. It came out at a time, I think you have to look when a movie is released, and it's a bad period. So you have to look. You also have to remember when it was released. If Hell or High Water had come out at the end of the year, I don't think it would have received the same kind of attention.
Yeah, it just happened to come out right at that time period where people were overloaded with summertime goofball movies, and this reminded them, which is good to know that something can remind people. Oh, this is what a good movie is like.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it on that level.
This movie is as valid as anything on any list, because this is a movie that if it's on cable late Saturday night or Sunday afternoon, years from now, you will watch it.
Yeah. And the same thing goes with the Infiltrator. I watched the Infiltrator this week, and again thought it was incredibly enjoyable. I thought it was a little too long. It reminded me a bit of Donnie Brasco in a lot of ways. Yeah. And because I felt like I kind of already seen this movie before in some ways. It's still a movie of note for me, but that's kind of what kept me from loving it as much as I could. But I agree with a lot of your points.
That great scene in the restaurant where he's taking his wife out to dinner for their anniversary.
Oh,
and,
that's a great scene. I like that scene.
The kingpin shows up and he's got to turn on a dime.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Dean, you're number 8.
Number 8 for me is a film I just saw this past week, and it's gotten a lot of praise at the Cannes Film Festival. I think it won the Palme d'Or, but I think that's the truth. That's the case. But it's Ken Loach's I, Daniel Blake.
Oh yeah! Oh cool.
That was. This was, Ken Loach is a very, reliable filmmaker. I mean, he just doesn't. He's somebody that just doesn't make movies that you can just, shake off very easily. this is the first movie in a few years, though, that of his that really has affected me. Admittedly, there's a lot of his movies that I haven't seen. So, but this film stars an actor that I've never heard of, Dave Johns, as a carpenter who suffered a heart attack. He's in his, he looks like he's in his late 60s, and he's the entire movie is basically his struggle to navigate the complex paperwork needed in order to get welfare and to get medical coverage for his heart attack, and he's kind of he's caught between, okay, so he has to go out and look for work, but he can't take a job until he gets the medical coverage that that will let employers know that he can work. But he's required to go out and look for jobs, but he can't take them. In fact, there's this one great scene in it where he gets a call from an employer that he's given his resume to, and the employer says, "Okay, well, I want you to come in for the job. You can have the job. It looks like you've got good references and everything." And he says, "Well, I really can't take the job because if I take the job, I can't take the job until I get this thing." And the guy on the other phone says, "So you'd rather be on the dole than take a job that I'm offering you? That's great. What an asshole you are." And he hangs up on him, and it just shatters Daniel Blake. It's just, plus there's this. I'm leaving out a major part of the movie, and he strikes up a friendship with a single mother who's just made her way to the city that they're in. They're not in London; they're in another part of Britain, smaller town in Britain. But the single mother, played by Haley Squires, has 2 kids with her. She's struggling. She had to struggle to get the apartment that they're in, and they meet at one of the offices, and it's as much a movie about her character as it is about Dave Johns' character. In that it's this movie. This movie is probably the movie that can say more about the struggles of the poor than any other movie this year. And I mean, I'm including Hell or High Water in that as well. Mm-hmm. It really shows you just how people are being choked by this overwhelming greed. Mm-hmm. That's affecting the world. I mean, it's affecting the world. There's this scene. There's so many shattering scenes in this movie. I mean, it is really a gut punch. And let me tell you too, there's a lot of relief in the movie too, because it's a movie that shows you that we really rely on each other to get through. And so it's not a movie that's just beating you over the head with this sort of like, it's so hopeless and everything, because it really isn't. We rely on the help of our neighbors in order to get through, and I think this movie really shows that. That's just as much part of the movie as anything else. It's the criticism of the bureaucracy and everything. It's just but there's this great scene where they have to go to a food bank, and when you see the line outside of the food bank, you're like, Jesus, this is going to get worse. And it's just, this situation is just going to get worse and worse. But they go into the food bank, and the Haley Squires character is so hungry that she has to, because she's been giving the only food that she had to her kids. and she's been subsiding on almost nothing. So she feels compelled to open up a can of something and start gobbling it down because she's so hungry. She just breaks down in tears at the food bank. And you see the people helping at the food bank and everything, and how kind they are and everything. And then you see the awfulness of the people in the welfare offices and how horrible they are. I don't know. It's a ridiculously complicated movie in some ways, but it's only complicated because of the complex, I guess, world that we're living in. And I just loved it. I thought it was superb in every way.
He made the best. I think the best movie about the IRA, The Wind That Shakes the Barley. I think that's a super. I know, and I've seen. I really go out of my way if it's playing in a theater. I'll always go see a movie by him because we don't, and you definitely stress this. He's a very diverse filmmaker. Michael Winterbottom, Steven Soderbergh kind of way. He really tackles a lot of different subjects. They do have a common theme about humanity, but he's a very good filmmaker. He's made a lot of great movies, and I wanted to see Jimmy's Hall, and it's been on cable, and I still haven't caught it. And I want to see this one because I've only heard great things about it. And I'm so happy that you guys are just killing it tonight.
Well, I might as well say, I, Daniel Blake, is my number 2, so we can save time.
Okay.
And it probably, by far, is the most emotional movie I've seen this year. And that scene at the food bank is the most heartbreaking moment of the year for me. Because she's so hungry, and then everybody, when she opens up that can, and she's so ashamed of herself, she's not able to control her impulses. And everybody gathers around her and says, "We understand. It's okay. It's okay." And it's a beautiful movie, above all else, about humanity and how humanity struggles to thrive in even the hardest times. But in the end, the times might just be too hard to overcome. Which is the tragedy of it, because we're all taught to believe that if you lead an honest life and you work hard, you have a chance at a comfortable life if you contribute to society in that way. And the world has changed, and I think the movie reflects that, and it does reflect the comfort and love we receive from strangers, and from the unlikeliest places, the relationships that we spark with people that end up, changing our lives in a way. I love the human connectivity in the movie. I just think that I always most appreciate movies that are about humanism, humanity, and this one is, for me, like the top example of that from 2016. Bravo. I'm obviously on board with this movie too. And the actors are so appealing. They are so good. And because you haven't seen them before, really, you see them as the characters. They bring no baggage with them, so you're completely accepting of them in that world. And and especially when he finds out what she ends up doing for a living to support her family. And you see how heartbroken he is and how ashamed she is. And the line that she has where she says, your love is going to break me down, which I thought was one of the most powerful lines in the movie. It's a really gorgeous movie, and I think everyone needs to see it.
Yes, it's a must.
Okay, number 8 for you, Jerry.
Okay, you have to forgive me. We're getting into darker territory now for the next couple of films. Just forgive me. No, because I really think I like this thing. This might be on your list. If it is, or it might make it easier, but it's not. Nocturnal Animals.
Wow.
Is it on?
Wow. No, but go ahead. I'm interested.
Oh, you're well. No, I've talked about the movie, so I'll keep it brief. I'm trying to keep it brief for time's sake, and just as I get older and the mind wanders. But I like Tom Ford's The Single Man, the one he did with Colin Firth a couple of years ago. But this is just light years ahead in the darkness of human nature. I was torn. Do I pick this Amy Adams movie or do I pick Arrival? Do I pick, because they're both, to me, really good performances by her. But, of course, I went with the dark, sinister, just totally off the wall, of course, because that's who I am. Do we expect any difference? No. I talked about this. I like this movie because the plot device, the narrative, is Amy Adams reading the manuscript for her ex-husband's, ex-lover's book, which is the primary story of the movie. And, I like that. The idea in 2016 you're going to have a major movie with a character reading a book. That's, that is unusual.
You
understand where
right.
I'm going with this. You understand where I'm going with this. The idea that you would have a character reading a book in the opening sequence, as we've talked about on this show before, is something that really sort of sets up the movie, or just could be sort of just Tom Ford saying, I need to have fun with these people before I get them into the movie. But I just think that the ending of the film is perfect. And I think if you're paying attention to the movie, because I've already seen things online where obviously people were not paying attention to the movie. It's sort of like I liken the reaction to the person I talked to who I love this person, but I remember when Pulp Fiction came out, how could John Travolta be alive at the end of the movie if he was killed halfway through it? Kind of. But you understand what I'm saying. You understand the analogy.
Then you haven't paid attention. Yeah, obviously
you haven't
paid attention.
It's related to my number one movie, which I think my number one choice for this year will have me just relegated to the dungeon for the rest of my life, but that's okay.
Maybe not.
Really
maybe not. After you hear my number 8, you probably won't think that way about your number 1.
This I really like this movie. Because I didn't, we went to go see Fantastic Beasts first, and then we're just like, it was one of those weekends where so many things were coming out. I was like, we got to go see this though. My mom was just like, okay, whatever. I think I don't know, did she sleep through Fantastic? Just remember, my mom slept through all of Jason Bourne and said it was a good movie. I'm like, how would you know? You slept through the whole goddamn thing. You woke up when there was an explosion. How would you know? I thought it was a good movie.
Well, Dean and I also saw Nocturnal Animals. And I liked it fine. It definitely looks good. I was intrigued by it. Michael Shannon is a great supporting character in that world.
How is he not? How is he not being talked about? I mean, I know that people were talking about him, but now it's Aaron Taylor Johnson that people are talking about because he surprisingly just won the Golden Globe for the supporting actor for.
How does kick-ass upstage Michael Shannon? That's what I want to know.
I don't see how that happens.
Michael Shannon's performance, just as written, is one of those classic supporting performances that usually get nominated.
Yeah. You know what I loved about the movie? I loved the interplay between, because there's really 3 time periods that are being covered. It's not only her just reading the thing, in her ivory palace or whatever. Which, by the way, those sequences reminded me of something that maybe De Palma might have done, like in the 80s. It kind of feels like it.
Number one, I promise you, I feel like the guy, the narrator of Magnolia. We're going to get to that.
It feels like a De Palma movie in some ways, like but it's not only that her reading and the story, but also the dramatization of her ex's novel, but also it takes place when they first met, when Gyllenhaal Amy Adams first meet, and so it really is cleverly edited and constructed.
Oh yeah, no
it's
doubt.
got a beautiful score. One of the best scores of the year. There's a lot to love in it, and it just got edged out of my top 20 really recently.
No, I understand that. I mean, I'm a sick person, so I really, I let me be honest. If we were doing this 5 years ago, this episode, I would have put Demolition alongside of this because Demolition was probably the first film I saw last year that I really loved. I would pair it off with just great Jake Gyllenhaal performances. And Demolition is a great movie, but it couldn't make the top 10. I was being really, really strict this year. But let's not. He's really good in the movie too.
I felt like he was overacting, and he's one of the reasons that I kind of downgrade the movie a little bit because
he was doing a better job than Prince of Persia, though. Come on, I mean, better than Prince of Persia.
There's a few moments where I feel like he's overdoing it a bit, but I loved Amy Adams in it, and
the end of that movie. I've heard people, express like, I've heard one of our close friends express how artsy the movie is. And Dane, I told this to you. I don't think it's artsy. Like, it's not artsy in a way that removes you from it, that alienates you from it.
Right.
There are lots of filmmakers that make those kinds of movies. Not really in America, but they're out there. What it is stylish. So when the movie ends in the last minute and a half, which is a long time, it just focuses on Amy Adams' face as she's sitting at the table. When people, I love movies like that where remember that really long take of Nicole Kidman in Birth? The movie's actually kind of famous for that long take. I love movies like that. I love to see actors thinking. And so I love that the movie ended on that shot of Amy Adams. And by the way, other movies that people love, like Magnolia, like Michael Clayton, end exactly the same way.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not deemed too artsy then.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. The ending is perfect, I think. And anybody who has a problem with that ending, and there are a number of people who do, I totally agree. They just haven't been paying attention. So,
can I
my number 8.
Another mom story, real quick though, from the movie. You mean that was Han Solo's son who killed him? Okay. Okay, sorry, I had to bring that up. Sorry.
Okay, my number 8 is a movie I didn't think that I would like because I typically do not like movies about vapidity. That means vapid people.
Mm-hmm.
But I will be honest. Like for the first hour and 15 minutes, I thought, the movie looks great. It puts you in kind of like a state of mind, it's hypnotic in its own way. But I don't know that I jive with it. And then in the last half hour of the movie, it goes to those places. It takes a metaphor and it makes it literal, and it goes pretty far out. And I admire the hell out of that. And for that reason, it's going to stay with me. And that's The Neon Demon. Now,
oh my God, my number 1 movie of the year.
I thought so. That's why I
love
said.
You, Jamie. I love you.
I do like
forgiven.
it.
All is forgiven.
The score is amazing. I mean, he Cliff Martinez, right? Cliff Martinez or Clint Mansell? Which one? Cliff Martinez.
It's Cliff Martinez. Dude, and it's a score that's in my car. Well, it will probably never leave the car. Never leave the car. Sorry, never leaving. Sorry.
and it's really it's that last half hour though, man. I mean, you do get sense of the vapidity of the surface of the modeling world and how jealousy plays a part and how, obviously Elle Fanning is damaged in her own way somehow. Mm-hmm. She's coming from some kind of damaged place. and yet her image is something wholesome and mysterious, and it's that it quality that all the other girls, while they're pretty, they're very superficially pretty. There's some kind of soul in there in Elle Fanning that they aspire to that they can't have. And so you want to kind of devour that. That's the metaphor. You kind of want to devour and ingest what you don't have. And he makes that metaphor literal, like I said. And I appreciated the hell out of that. that he went that far at the end of that movie. You know, and it doesn't have any kind of deep significance to me, this movie, and it tells kind of human truths that are pretty obvious. And I do think there's something about competition between women that is very, very fierce and ferocious.
Oh, yes.
So I think that men probably express it a different way. But so I do think it's interesting in that respect. But just in terms of style and what the movie provokes, it's a very provocative movie. It wants to make an impact, and I think finally it does. And that's why I recommend it.
I did not think this would be on anyone else's list, and I picked it as my number one. Really says that I need the help that I do need. But this movie I thought I'd hate this movie because of the week it opened. People just I don't know if you guys noticed this. People just ripped this movie to shreds. I mean,
they did.
They just went after. I mean, they really. I mean, not went after it. They sort of like, you know, they killed it and then they poured gasoline on it and then they shot it again. You know, shot it to the corpse, the burnt.
Well, it was at Cannes, right? It was at the Cannes Film Festival, and that's where the knives really started coming out.
Oh God, yeah. Okay. I talked about it a little bit, but the problem with the movie with me was it stuck. It's stuck in ways I didn't think. I'm going to say it right now. I think it's light years ahead of Drive. I mean, I think it's just it just makes Drive look childish. And Drive really maybe in its own right is childish. And what he was trying to do with Only God Forgives, well, you know, whatever. But he gets at a truth here about competition among women that we see that I saw with actress friends in Hollywood, and I see with actress friends here. They are not friends with each other. They do not like each other because they're all going after the same job. And that's what it reminded me at first. But then the reason I picked De Palma as my number 2 was because I don't think the Neon Demon could exist without Brian De Palma. I think there's a lot of De Palma in that movie. You may disagree with me, but I especially hear it in Cliff Martinez's score. I hear shades of from Blowout and Scarface and Obsession. I hear all of that in there. Then and the score is a very important part of the movie. But then I see some of, David Lynch from Mulholland Drive. That's in there. I think that's. I mean, it seems that this guy, Nicholas Refn, has succeeded where Richard Kelly failed. And I really do see that. I was thinking about that today. I only came up with that today, guys. Only came up with that today. So it's taken me since June till now to make that point, which should have been made by anybody else within 24 hours after watching the movie, but it took me till today. Because I do think that Richard Kelly is very influenced by David Lynch and Brian De Palma, even though the people at De Palma Alamo thought I was nuts. But that's for another story. I do think this movie is, when we talk about De Palma, we talk about the visual, what a visual flair, how intoxicating it is. I got that out of this movie. There's something intoxicating about watching this movie on the big screen. It's just, you're just like, and that third act, Jamie, he goes there. He goes there. He's unapologetic about it, and he goes there, and you're just like, oh my God.
And by the way, I do not read the movie as misogynistic. I mean, there's a difference between portraying a story about women that truly despise one another to their core, and someone actually portraying that, and somebody portraying that from a misogynistic, that they themselves hate women. I think he's painting a portrait of this world in which they live in, and he's portraying it by their rules that they set.
I agree with that, because I didn't get the massage. I mean, I think I think in that way, Nocturnal Animals veers towards more for misogyny, because in the end, you are rooting for Elle Fanning and what becomes of her. She does have the last laugh in the movie.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before, this is Elle Fanning's year. I mean, this and 20th Century Women, these are really, truly magnificent performances from her. She really is no longer Dakota's little sister. She is a great actress.
They're very different. They're very different.
Yeah.
And this is about as far removed as the really endearing performance that she gives in something like We Bought a Zoo as you could get.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This isn't in any way endearing.
No, it's not endearing, but it's something very, how shall I say, there's something very self-assured in the performance. It's a very confident performance.
Yeah.
There's a level of self-confidence.
You know that she's damaged, and
yes.
that world swallows her up too.
Yes,
before her
it does.
demise. It corrupts her in a way, and she might have come from a corrupted place to begin with. That remains kind of mysterious to you.
Well, the way she talks about her mother, because it's her mother who says a great line about her. That I think is she telling the boyfriend or is she telling Keanu Reeves? I forget. You must forgive me. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but she knows. I think she knows when she gets to Los Angeles. She knows that there's something about her that you get the feeling just through dialogue that there's something back home. Things were not well.
Right.
Things were not kosher back home.
Well, geez, I know what I'm going to be watching later on tonight on Amazon Prime, because it's on Amazon Prime right now.
I know I'm getting a nasty email tomorrow. Thank God I don't have to go to work.
Well, it's bound to get a response, and for me, the people, their likely complaints, it's vapid, and I'll say yes, it is, and they'll say it's disgusting, and I'll say yeah, it is. They're all this stuff in there just to shock you, and I'll say yeah, that's why it's there.
But I love it.
all the criticisms are kind of what made it stick with me, and I'm not easy. I'm not necessarily easy in terms of being. I wasn't shocked, but in terms of making provocative stuff, and I'm not automatically on board with you if you make that kind of thing. But there's something about the vibe of this movie where it all felt of a piece, and I like the feeling of the world he created. I like that I didn't like it. It made me very uncomfortable.